I think Loro might be having some technical difficulties right now, but Loro, we got you.
Yeah, we do. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wild Sports Talk with Isaiah Leung, Taylor Odaga, and Ben Curse. My name is Loro. So it feels like Christmas because NBA free agency is going to be beginning tomorrow, and I'm really excited to talk about some of my hot takes on who I think is going to be signing where. And fellas, how are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good, man. Looking forward to it. Happy basketball Christmas Eve to all of you guys tonight and all of our fans. Free agency is going to be, so much fun tomorrow. It was supposed to be more chaotic because we were all hoping that Kyrie would opt out, and then, you would hear the rumors about Durant and where Kyrie would go. But Kyrie opting in kind of tamed the rumors down, but still, it's still going to be a very exciting free agency. Looking forward to the next few days and few weeks. It's going to be like so much fun to see what our teams get in terms of players and moves that our teams make.
Yeah, I'm
It's going
doing
to be
well
a great free agency. You're absolutely right about that. But how are you, Ben?
doing well. I mean, my Red Sox almost put me into the mental hospital tonight with the literally a 3-run lead with 2 outs, and we couldn't almost blew it to have ourselves swept against the Blue Jays. But thankfully, we won that. So I'm feeling a lot better, especially after blowing the game we had on Wednesday. And so I'm looking forward to some basketball talk. I know I wasn't on with you guys and batter up last episode, so it's good to be back here. And definitely looking forward to tonight and obviously hearing what you guys have to say regarding NBA free agency, which by the way is now on the Eastern Coast here. It is official today, so whatever you want to call it. So I'm obviously counting down the hours, the minutes. I'll have my phone ready on all these Twitter things, so looking forward to it.
We'll see a lot of Woj bombs. Be sure to watch ESPN tomorrow and all day because there's going to be plenty of Woj bombs tomorrow as well. So, Taylor, how you doing, my man? I mean,
sorry to cut you off. We might be able to give you the Woj bombs because we have a show tomorrow as well.
Yes, we do have a show tomorrow as Loro, does some technical work, but yeah, it's gonna be so much fun tomorrow. We do have our free agency frenzy show, which we'll be announcing shortly. But yeah, Taylor, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. In terms of, we've just got baseball to watch now, but hockey has been pretty good this season. Basketball, which we're discussing tonight. I mean, so disappointed that the Celtics couldn't beat the Warriors because I really wanted them to get that one more championship than the Lakers because somewhat. I mean, for me being a Sacramento Kings fan, you gotta hate the Warriors, you gotta hate the Lakers. It's just that importance of being a fan of Sacramento. Even though I'm living in SoCal now, I'm still well. Of course, the teams I root for. You may not know this. The only teams in California that I will root for are the Sacramento Kings, San Francisco 49ers, and all of the teams in Southern California except for the Dodgers.
We tried, Taylor. We did our best in the finals. Just ran into a little bit of a better team, but we did our best.
Of course, yeah.
Anyways, folks, here, Richard Daniels tweets in, and he also says, gotta talk about DeJounte Murray to the Hawks. Could be a power shift in the Eastern Conference happening before our eyes. I think it might be, but we're going to have to talk about that shortly. So, anyways, Richard, thank you for tuning in. Anyways, now let's talk about some of the headlines here prior to NBA free agency as Kyrie Irving stunned the world and opted in to his $36.7 million player option on Monday, ending days of speculation that he could be a Laker, joining LeBron James, and also Irving's decision did the flames of Kevin Durant potentially leaving Brooklyn and the Nets are breaking up. So my reaction to this, folks, is that I think that Kyrie did the right thing. I think that Kyrie Irving wanted to stay in Brooklyn. He wanted to play with his buddy Kevin Durant. We'll see how this team is heading into next season. I'll go to you, Isaiah. What is your thoughts and overall reaction to this?
So my reaction to it was, I gotta admit, I was kind of stunned because from where everything was headed, it looked like that Kyrie Irving actually might opt out and actually do the insane thing, and that was leave $30 million on the table and take that $6 million taxpayer mid-level exception to join the Los Angeles Lakers. You know, you had all the reports that he was at an impasse with the Nets, and then over the weekend or through the draft where Shams Charania was saying how I think Shams reported that Kyrie is expected to seek his next destination via opt-in and trade, and he said that Kyrie's gonna find a new home soon. And then you had Woj reporting that the negotiations had gone acrimonious and had gotten to a point of no return. And then on Monday, you had heard rumors from Jake Fisher, who's a very credible reporter for Bleacher Report, saying that Kyrie Irving, it's looking extremely likely that he's going to take that $6 million taxpayer mid-level exception from the Lakers. So I thought it was really heading that way, where Kyrie Irving was actually going to opt out, where he was going to leave. I think I even texted this in our group chat that the Nets Titanic has sunk, because I thought Kyrie was gone. I thought that, you know, that meant Kevin Durant was probably gone as well. So I thought that the Nets were in shambles, and Kyrie surprised me. He surprised me by actually opting in and doing a complete 180 by opting into the deal. I was completely stunned by it. And it's going to be really interesting to see, because, you know, Brooklyn could actually still trade him. I don't know how likely that is. Woj reported that they could still do it if Kyrie and the owner Joe Tsai and Sean Marks don't mend the fences, because Brooklyn doesn't want a repeat of last year's horrific season that they had. So a trade could still be on the table. But him opting in was a total surprise for me. I wasn't expecting it one bit. And I think that when you look at it, you know, the question in our show tonight, our show's agenda for tonight is, do you believe that this is Irving and Durant's final year if they stay together in Brooklyn? I certainly believe so, because I don't think the Nets really wanted Kyrie. I think the Nets on the outside or on the inside, they were secretly hoping that Kyrie Irving would opt out and become a free agent so they can get rid of the mess that was Kyrie Irving and get rid of all that nonsense and all the drama going on. So I think this is far from over. I think this is just the beginning. And, you know, I would not be shocked if Kyrie Irving does get traded in the offseason, because I still think that the Nets just don't want him. Reports from Brian Windhorst was that the Nets were stunned themselves when he opted in. They got the notification just like we did from Shams Charania that he opted in. So this is far from over, and I still think at the end of the day, Kyrie Irving's days in Brooklyn and the Brooklyn Nets days of having that big three with Simmons, Durant, and Irving, it's numbered, and it's going to be over whether it's this year or whether it's next year.
It might not be over, but we'll see. But Ben, what was your reaction to Kyrie Irving opting into his contract with the Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah, I was kind of in the same shoes as Isaiah. I was just seeing a lot of reports out that he was maybe trying to force his way out. Possibly he was having the impasse with the Nets organization, and but obviously in the group chat, personally, I found it out first with the breaking news sound alerts on the group chat from Isaiah saying he actually opted in. And personally, to me, I think this is kind of Kyrie sending a message in terms of, okay, I will play here for this last year, but you got to pay me. And I think really he was looking at kind of all the teams that he was going to look out for now. And I think he's going to try to see this kind of as I still kind of have it, what it takes, you know, revenge type of year. And when you have a guy like Kevin Durant still by your side, and obviously Ben Simmons back into the fold, I feel that Kyrie kind of saw this opportunity in terms of, well, let me try one more time here. But I do think that his mindset's still somewhere different. Bobby Marks, I was reading this article as Isaiah was talking. He reported saying that the saga may not be over after the tweet that Shams said about opting in. He said this may be the first act of a very long, chaotic play. The Nets can still facilitate a trade for Irving, as Bobby Marks has noted from ESPN. By opting in, Kyrie Irving is eligible to be traded to any of the 29 teams, and hard cap restrictions does not apply. Irving can still facilitate a trade out of Brooklyn via a trade. So I completely agree with Isaiah. I still think that this saga is far from over. I still think that Kevin Durant, I know we'll talk about him, but I think Kevin Durant stays in Brooklyn. Aren't necessarily guaranteed after this season. So this is what I think the NBA free agency, even though they might stay in Brooklyn, I think that there's going to be a lot of determination from these guys, outside. You look at a guy like possibly like DeAndre Ayton, who poorly rumors that potentially if he would go to possibly like a Brooklyn or something like that. So not only it might not affect Kyrie and everybody else, but I think personally for Kyrie's sakes, he still probably wants to go a different direction. But he wants to get paid, and that's why he's kind of staying for this extra season and waiting to become a free agent next year, as Woj essentially said many situations on the last couple of days here. But very surprised at the moment that he did at the time.
It was very, I think that, in my opinion, I'm kind of hoping that he can become a player that I think he can try to help Brooklyn win a championship, but we'll see. But Taylor, what was your reaction to this, knowing that this drama might not end this season?
Well, the fact that it may not end, and like Isaiah and Ben said, it is far from over, because there's the possibility. Yeah, he opted into his player option, and he's a Brooklyn Net for now. But at the same time, there is still the chance that he could be traded to another team, and it could be the Lakers. It could be, it could be any one of the other 30 teams. It could be one of the other 29 teams. So, but the chemistry he has with Kevin Durant, and who knows how much longer it's going to last. But if they do part ways, then yeah, the Nets, I could say, are not going to be a contender for the next, I don't know, who knows how long. But regardless, I kind of was a little surprised that Kyrie would exercise his option, but nonetheless, I was actually glad at the same time, because although if Kyrie does go somewhere else, I kind of don't see it being the Lakers, because the Lakers are stacked as it is already, and I think probably a team like, say, Cleveland he could go back to, or somewhere, or who knows where. But honestly, I wouldn't choose the Lakers, because they are stacked already. In fact, the Lakers, on that note, followed the same path that the Nets did. They built a super team, where they tried to build a super team, I should say, and where did it lead them to? Nowhere but missing the playoffs.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. It did lead them to missing the playoffs, but we'll have to see if that works in the long run here. So, anyways, Wish Lancaster says good evening, and he says that he was super stunned that Kyrie Irving opted in and stayed. I really thought he was gone. And Richard Daniels also says, what has Irving really accomplished? He is a second banana for a ring, and there's been disappointed as a league guy. Kyrie Irving can't do this all alone. I think what makes Kyrie Irving good is that he has to play with players that can complement him well. And Ish thinks that Kyrie to the Lakers could still happen. I like Kyrie. I think he is a phenomenal shooter. I think he would fit with what the Lakers need, but his personality might not even fit the locker room. That's what I'm leading towards, but I like Kyrie Irving as a player, though.
Laurel, let me add one thing before we move on to the next topic about this. Ishmael did mention that Irving to LA is still on the table. I think, and I think I put this in our group chat when Irving opted in, and that was, a lot of the Laker fans that thought he was actually going to come play for $6 million. I thought, like, you couldn't be serious, and I never believed that he was actually going to do that. Just because you're leaving $30 million on the table. Like, I don't care like how big of a head case you really are. There's no way you're leaving that much money on the table. And I still think it could happen because he opted in, and now the Lakers won't be hard capped if they were to work something out. I could see it happening. But if you're the Lakers, my concern with Kyrie, and this has been my concern from the get-go, is I want Kyrie to be 100% committed. I don't want Kyrie to do what he did in Boston or do what he did in Brooklyn, and that was take games off because he wasn't in the mood to play or there were other issues going on in the world that he needed to deal with. Like, I don't want that to happen. I also don't want Kyrie Irving, if the Lakers gave him they traded for him and then next year they gave him a max contract. What if Kyrie decides, oh, there's better stuff I need to, or there are bigger things I need to take care of in the world, and he retires halfway in the contract? You can't have that happen. So I do agree with Richard. He has been a disappointment as a lead guy. You can't have that much distractions if you're a leader on the team and be that big of a head case.
Yeah, I mean, Kyrie Irving can be a cancer in the locker room, but we'll see. But anyways, there was a big trade today that really kind of shocked the NBA world. Is that this was the first blockbuster trade of this NBA offseason as the San Antonio Spurs traded guard DeJounte Murray to the Atlanta Hawks for Danilo Gallinari, 3 first-round draft choices, and a draft spot, and a draft swap. I mean, I'm sorry. So sorry I messed up there. But anyways, folks, my reaction to this is that, you know what? Trae Young is about to get better, because if you have DeJounte Murray in the same backcourt as Trae Young, you talk about 2 shooters that are going to shoot the ball for the Atlanta Hawks, and that I think that Atlanta is going to rise from the play-in to a playoff spot. That's why I think that this was a good move for the Atlanta Hawks, because I think that making a trade like that tells me that they are ready to contend in the Eastern Conference. And I think that the Atlanta Hawks are definitely ready to contend here, folks. I'm going to start with you, Isaiah. So you talk about DeJounte Murray. He was going to be the future face of the San Antonio Spurs. Then they traded him because the Spurs are going through a massive rebuild. And for the Hawks, they just got better with DeJounte Murray at the 2, with Trae Young at the 1. You talk about a really good 1-2 combo in the backcourt there. What is your thoughts on this?
Well, I agree with everything you said, Loro, about the Hawks. DeJounte Murray makes the Hawks even more dynamic than they are, and that backcourt of DeJounte Murray and Trae Young is going to be so fun to watch down there in Atlanta, and I'm looking forward to it. And the Hawks, I think the Hawks next season with Murray and with Trae Young playing together, and I think they will be able to mesh well down there in Atlanta. I think they will be I think they could be a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. I think that's how good that they could potentially be. Remember, Capella's coming back. You do also have, Herter. You have DeAndre Hunter there. You have a lot of young talent. You also have Bogdanovich down there, who is a very, very underrated player for the Atlanta Hawks. So the Hawks have a lot of young talent. And, now you add another young star in DeJounte Murray, and it's going to be better because the Hawks are a team that like to play the Spurs style of offense, which is move the ball and have that free-flowing offense. So it's going to be better in that way instead of just Trae Young be a ball hog. But I need to go in on the Spurs. And I know Ben and I were joking around earlier in the show about how we're going to play that NBA free agency predicting game later on in the show. And, I'm going to have a lot of bold picks. Well, this take right here might be my boldest take of this show, and that is I think the NBA game has passed Greg Popovich by. I know he's the greatest coach of all time, but I think Greg Popovich has officially lost his mind. Like, what are you even doing if you're Greg Popovich? Like, I know the Spurs, and we've been advocating for the Spurs to go into a massive rebuild because they're always stuck in the middle, right? They're not good enough to contend in the West, but they're not bad enough to be the team that gets the number 1 pick and get great talent. They're always stuck with pick number 10 or number 11 or 12, and you really can't do much with those types of picks. But when I look at the rumors surrounding DeJounte Murray's deal and what Pop could have gotten, the Hawks were willing to throw in John Collins. They were willing to throw in John Collins and Danilo Gallinari and the 3 first-round picks for DeJounte Murray, but Greg Popovich flat out said no. I just want Danilo Gallinari, who is not even going to play a single minute for the Spurs. He's reportedly going to get waived and bought out by the Spurs, and I want the 3 picks, which is a 23 pick that the Charlotte Hornets gave to the Hawks. So whatever record the Hornets finish with, the Spurs will get their pick. It's not going to be that good of a pick because the Hornets are projected to make the play-in next year. So it's not going to even be like a top 15, top 20 pick. It might be like number 22. And then the other picks are for number 20 or for 2025 and 2027. I don't understand what Greg Popovich is doing here. He could have gotten John Collins, who is a young, underrated power forward that I think would have been a guy that would have been a great fit for the Spurs and a guy that the Spurs could have, built around, in this rebuild. Greg Popovich, I know he got the 3 first-round picks, but those picks don't look good whatsoever, and he did not get enough for DeJounte Murray. This is a guy that's an all-star. This is a guy that's only 25 years of age. This is a guy that's only making $3 million right now on his rookie contract, and he averaged 21 points a game last season for the San Antonio Spurs. I'm just so confused as to what Greg Popovich was thinking when he made this deal for DeJounte Murray. It doesn't make sense why you wouldn't ask for more and ask for John Collins when the Hawks were reportedly willing to give you John Collins in a trade. It just doesn't make any sense for me. I just think the greatest coach of all time, Greg Popovich, has lost his mind.
He definitely has lost his mind, Isaiah. I get what you're saying here, but anyways, now with that being said, folks, I'm going to go to Ben. What was your thoughts on DeJounte Murray going to the Atlanta Hawks here? I mean, I think that this is going to make the Atlanta Hawks more dynamic on the offensive end. Go ahead, Ben. We can't hear you.
I think, sorry, I was on mute. I think this is kind of a rumored thing for about a week or two that the Spurs were open for some trade talks with DeJounte Murray, and at the first point, I'm like a little surprised in terms of why they would do it. I'm gonna actually have to sign and sadly disagree with you, Isaiah, in terms of your take. I think personally, Greg Popovich is looking at the situation in terms of essentially he's one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach in the NBA. He's essentially won, many situations. He's up there in terms of top 5 in wins. He's in a situation in the roster that he's on in a tough Western Conference. He's looking at this in terms of, I don't really have much season left. I don't have any more years left to go. He's not going to look at it in terms of just having a guy like DeJounte Murray down the road anymore, because Murray's going to be, I was looking at this, a unrestricted free agent in 2024. So I think he essentially is kind of like, okay, let me just kind of bring Murray to a team that's going to be in contention and just play with whoever I kind of have now. Now, the one thing I have to say about this trade is the return that the Spurs had was a joke. I mean, the Hawks actually fleeced the Spurs in this deal The Hawks sent also a 2023 first-round pick via the Charlotte Hornets, plus their 2025 and 2027 first-round pick, the Spurs deal. And also 2025 and 2027 first-round picks were unprotected, according to ESPN Zach Lowe. One thing that's really going to be interesting about this backcourt between Trae and DeJounte Murray, I was actually fortunate enough to be at the Celtics against the Hawks game this past year for my birthday in March. And the Hawks, I remember in that game, were up by at least good 15 points going to the first half. A very good young team led by Nate McMillan. And then obviously in the second half, the Celtics did what they had to do, and they had a great comeback, a massive game. But after the game, I'm thinking to myself, man, I know that the Hawks have John Collins. I know that they have a couple other guys like Bogdanovich. But if they added somebody to help Trae on that backcourt, man, that could definitely help that team go from being a very good contending team to a great contending team. And this is my dark horse team potentially for this season after getting a guy like DeJounte Murray. I know that the Knicks were also looking at DeJounte Murray, which, by the way, another Knicks failure in terms of trying to find guys and coming up short. Or also the Timberwolves were actually another team interested. One thing that I just read here, according to Elias Sports Bureau, Murray and Young will be the first pair of teammates in NBA history who each averaged 20 points and 8 assists per game in the previous season. That's essentially a very interesting fact that I'm not surprised about. I think it also helps with Murray being on that team to have Trae Young play a lot more off ball, which I think is going to really help his game elevate in terms of to more of a superstar that Trae Young is. So I think the Hawks also looked at the series they played against the Heat and this past playing round, and they were essentially trapped in Trae Young and trying to make others beat you. Now you have two very good guys that can have the ball in their hands. You essentially can make the offense a little more wide open, which I like a lot. Now, the thing about the Hawks is I know we'll get to this is according to Adrian Wojnarowski on SportsCenter earlier this evening, he reported despite the move that Murray going to the Hawks, there's going to be more activity. Whether it's the Hawks obviously looking to explore trades for a guy like John Collins or a guy like Kevin Huerter, they are not done. And obviously, we'll kind of go more detail. But wow, I'm not surprised about the stunning move because Mark Stein actually kind of reported this. But I was just very curious in terms of if he's going to go there. And I really like the fit there, and I think that it's going to be playing dividends for Murray and that team.
What about you, Taylor? I mean, what is your take on this? But from what I've gathered here, that might have been a very bad trade for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, potentially for the Spurs. I mean, this guy could have been the future of the franchise. Ever since the retirement of Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, and I mean, this guy could have been the new Tim Duncan, but no, you trade him. And now, although Gallinari, is a seasoned veteran, and I mean, a lot of sports these days, it's good and bad in many different ways because it's true, because you're trying to get younger as well. Because a lot of, from what I've seen over the years, younger people tend to make better athletes, especially with the draft picks. And I know this is true because I've seen this a lot in hockey. A lot of players, a lot of NHL teams try to get younger. They try to add, younger players because they know they've got more speed and more strength and more, they're just better athletes. Basketball is the same kind of, pretty much the same thing as I've seen over the years because they're trying to get younger. But at the same time, trading a guy like DeJounte Murray, I think, it's probably going to come back to haunt them in the future, but we'll just have to wait and see about that.
It's definitely going to haunt them here. But anyways, the next thing we're going to talk about next here is that John Wall is signing with the Lakers' little brother, the Los Angeles Clippers, following securing a buyout with the Rockets. I think John Wall will add this veteran presence to the Clippers bench. I think that a good mentor to Reggie Jackson. I think that this could be potentially a good fit for John Wall. What about you, Isaiah? What is your thoughts on John Wall being a Clipper here?
To be honest, I honestly don't understand why he signed with the Clippers because he's not even gonna be the backup point guard. It's gonna be, I believe, Reggie Jackson, right? That'll be the backup point guard. So I don't really think he's gonna get much playing time out there with the Clippers. I think he just signed because his best friend is Paul George, and he wants to just win a ring. So I don't know what to get out of John Wall. You don't know what you're going to get out of him since he hasn't played in 3 years. If you could just get like 10 or 12 points out of him and some productive minutes off the bench, then I think that it will be a huge plus for you just because, you get some production out of him since he hasn't played in so long. But, I see a lot of people celebrating like, the Clippers just added a big three and they're going to win the championship. John Wall, he hasn't played in 3 years, and if he could give you just something,
Yeah, utter silence here. So, anyways, now that being said here, anyways, with that being said here, Ben, what was your thoughts on John Wall being a Clipper?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not very surprised that the Rockets bought him out. Between just not playing for the Rockets and the Rockets obviously in deep sell mode, I didn't really see much of a reason in terms of him to stay. Uh, the Clippers, obviously, it seemed like that was kind of the team on his list when he got into buyout. I'm not sure, like Isaiah was saying, how much he'd play, but we'll see if he gets any action. I really like John Wall. I really want him to succeed and do well because I know he's gone through a lot of injury problems. But yeah, interesting fit.
Definitely an interesting fit here. We lost Isaiah here for the moment. So, anyways, Taylor, what was your thoughts on John Wall going to the Clippers here?
Well, like Ben or Isaiah, one of them mentioned, he's good friends with Paul George, and so this would kind of be a little interesting. But at the same time, I mean, this could be the era, a new era, a big three of him, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard, and then of course Reggie Jackson. I think Reggie Jackson may be he might be the the number one point guard, while John Wall is the second string. But in the past, and of course it was two veterans at the time. I remember back in 2013-14 when Chris Paul was there, and his backup was Darren Collison. Those guys were two seasoned veterans at the time, and now both have now moved on. Well, but with I think that in a situation like this, I would personally say John Wall gets the starting point guard, and because like he could be a good mentor to Reggie Jackson, and so I think you got to go with the veteran leadership to show them how it's done. But so, I mean, no surprise the Rockets bought him out, but at the same time, I mean, he needed a fresh start, and the Clippers is definitely a good place for him to start fresh.
Yeah, it was definitely a good place for him to start there. So, anyways, folks, now let's go to our let's talk about that free agent guard Jalen Brunson will meet with the Knicks, Mavericks, and the Heat when free agency begins. Is he expected to be he's going to choose between those three destinations? Where do I think is the best place for Jalen Brunson? I would want to see him with the New York Knicks. I just think that if he goes to the Knicks, he's kind of the guy that you can add like a dimension to the offense. The Knicks kind of need scores. They need guards. I think that he would really help with the New York Knicks offensively there. What about you, Isaiah? Where do you think Jalen Brunson should go to and why?
Loro, first of all, before I give my take, just want to make sure you can hear me, right? You guys can hear me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So for Jalen Brunson, where I think he should go, is I think that he should go to the Miami Heat because if he wants to win and he wants to stay away from the distraction, Miami would be a perfect fit for him because they have Lowry, they have Butler, they have Bam Adebayo. I think they would probably have to trade away Tyler Hero. They would probably have to trade away Duncan Robinson. They would probably have to trade away a couple other pieces just to make it work money-wise. But for Miami's built to win right now. And if you go to like the Knicks, yes, you're going to be the star of the show, but you will have a hard time even getting out of the play-in tournament. So I don't know if that's a place that you really want to go. It really depends what he wants. If he wants the money, then go to New York and be the star of the show. But if he wants to win and still get like a competent amount of money, then I think Miami's the best place for you. Since I just think Miami, they need another ball handler next to Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry. He is that other ball handler, but he did not do well in the playoffs. Plus, you can add another dimension scoring-wise to the Miami Heat and give them another weapon. So for me, I say his best spot is Miami, but where I think he will go is probably the New York Knicks, because if you look at it, his father is there as an assistant coach. They cleared up all that cap space for him. Leon Rose, who's now the president of basketball operations for the New York Knicks. He was Jalen Brunson's agent, so it just makes so much sense that he goes to New York. But I think it would be a really bad idea for him if he were to go to the New York Knicks. I think Miami would be the best place for him.
I think Miami might be the best place for him there, that's for sure. Here, what about you, Ben? Where do you think that Jalen Brunson should go to?
I think personally, it's pretty much, I'm not saying it's all foregone conclusion, but I think the two places it's going to happen are either the New York Knicks or the Dallas Mavericks. I think that the Miami Heat are a mystery team, as they have reported, but I think really that Brunson reportedly is going to be in New York with his agent. And I mean, I think personally, with him kind of being in New York, kind of being in that surrounding area, obviously, like Isaiah was saying, family, relatives, connections through the Knicks. I think personally, even though the Knicks make him out with the money, feel like they make him out to be like the next prime MJ or the prime LeBron, which I still don't understand their direction. But the New York Knicks just kind of just do stuff like that. It would not surprise me. Jalen Brunson is a very good player. He did very well when Luka got hurt in the playoffs this past year. I think that it could obviously help present a very good tandem with RJ Barrett. But I obviously still think the Knicks need a lot of work. Plus, the New York Knicks were also on DeJounte Murray, and they missed out on that. So I think that Jalen Brunson is going to go to the New York Knicks by tomorrow. We'll have to take a look at the contract details. I would be very shocked if he went to Miami. I would not be shocked if he returned back to Dallas if they offered him in terms of the contract, but I think it's very, very likely that he's going to become a New York Knick by tomorrow night.
You might be right about that. I think that might happen. What about you, Taylor? Where do you think Jalen Brunson lands with?
Well, like Ben said, he's in New York with his agent, so it could be it's possible that he goes to the Knicks, but I wouldn't be surprised if he re-signs with Dallas also, because the chemistry he has with Luka, and the fact how well he played when Luka went down with the injury. The Mavericks I think they basically have a newer version of Dirk and whoever it was that was his sidekick during the 2011 championship run, because with Brunson and Luka put together, I think would definitely. I'm pretty sure Luka wouldn't want Brunson to leave his side, because because Brunson basically picked up the slack, as I said before, when Luka got hurt, and but if he goes to the Knicks, then definitely that's no surprise, because I believe, like Isaiah or Ben mentioned, him teaming up with, say, RJ Barrett, and but I would definitely see him on either one, either the Knicks or staying with the Mavericks.
That could happen here, but anyways, folks, with that being said here now we'll go on to our next game. So We're going to play the NBA free agency game, so we're going to go with the list here where I think they'll go to. I'm going to start with Bradley Beal. Where do I think he lands? Now that he's opted out of his contract with the Washington Wizards, my free agent prediction for Bradley Beal is I'm going to say he signs a contract, a multi-year contract with the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't know how many years. I think it's going to be around the 4 or 5 year range.
Wow.
And I think that he will reunite with Russell Westbrook, and the Lakers need a 2-guard, and I think that's what the Lakers are looking for to kind of help complement LeBron and AD and Westbrook. And you talk about Bradley Beal adding another dimension to the starting lineup for the Lakers, and the Lakers definitely need shooting help, and they also need players that could defend the wing. What about you, Isaiah? Where does Bradley Beal go?
Loro, wow, you kicked us off with a bomb right there, having him go to the Lakers on a multi-year deal. I don't know how it would work.
Isaiah here. What about you, Ben? I'm actually going to go with you on this. Where do you think Bradley Beal goes with, and why?
Well, as my fantasy dream scenario with Bradley Beal is him becoming a Boston Celtic, obviously because he is close and friends with Jason Tatum. Bradley Beal is also a TD Garden for the finals, and he just has a very close relationship. It would definitely help us. But my reality with Bradley Beal is he seems very keen in on staying in Washington, really likes the atmosphere there. Even though that purchase, I don't think that going back to Washington is my personal best thing for Bradley Beal. I think that's what he will do. He's very Damian Lillard-like in terms of staying committed. I think he gets the Supermax deal. I think he stays in Washington on like a 5-6 year extra. Not sure the details regardless. And Washington keeps their star for the near future, for years to come. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of people out there that obviously are going to be obviously upset that Bradley Beal is not going to go out there and try something different. But to me personally, I think that he's going to stay in Washington for the near future. Even though my dream is for him to be a Celtic, even though we don't really have much of assets outside of our exception, we still have our TPE that we could still use, but it just wouldn't be able to work in Boston in terms of kind of our contract situation and stuff like that. So, but my personal guess, I feel like I'm doing the QB carousel all over again, is the Wizards coming back, re-signing.
That might be. I think I could see that happening too. But Isaiah, I couldn't even hear where you think Bradley Beal's going to go to. Can you tell us where you think Bradley Beal's going to land with?
All right. So for me, where Bradley Beal will go, it's tough because I want to be like Loro and pick him on the Lakers because that would be such a great possibility, and that's the one thing that that's the guy that I wanted before the whole Kyrie nonsense broke. But I'm actually going to go with a bold one. I'm going to go with the Miami Heat. I think Miami's able to trade Tyler Hero. I think they're able to trade Duncan Robinson. I think somehow they are able to move the Lowry contract just by attaching a first-round pick to it. And I think that he goes to Miami because I think I heard that Jimmy Butler and him are best friends. It makes a lot of sense there. He reportedly did talk to Jimmy Butler a couple weeks ago about his future. So I guess they've been trying to plan out something. So I think Miami, they know that they need another star to compete. It was very evident in the Celtics series in which they lost that they just needed another star to help out with Jimmy Butler, and Kyle Lowry wasn't the guy. I think they get the guy in Bradley Beal, and I think he signs a 4-year close to a max contract.
I can see where you're going with this, Isaiah. I really think that it might be a really good call here. But what about you, Taylor? Where do you think Bradley Beal goes to, and why?
Well, I've got a fantasy dream also like Ben has, him wanting to go over the Celtics. Well, I mean, I don't see this happening, but it would be nice for my fantasy dream to have him on the Sacramento Kings, preferably on, I think, at minimum a 1-year contract. But in reality, I personally see him re-signing with the Wizards because he's pretty much been the heart and soul of that franchise ever since he and John Wall entered the league. Well, with John Wall gone now, pretty much the burden's on him. So, but I personally see him in reality re-signing with the Wizards. I think we'll give him say probably I think a 3 or 4 year contract because I mean probably so he doesn't just take a little bit of the pressure off of him. But I see him re-signing with the Wizards.
I could see that. I could see that happening too. But anyways, now let's go to Zach LaVine. So I think this is an easy one. I think Zach LaVine is going to be going to the. I think he's going to stay with the Chicago Bulls. In my fantasy world, I'd want him to be a Laker, just because I think that you pair him with Russell Westbrook. You talk about two UCLA Bruins, both on the Lakers. I would love it. But I think Zach LaVine loves the Windy City. So I'm going to say Zach LaVine's going to stay in the Windy City with the Chicago Bulls, because I think he enjoys it there and he wants to help the Chicago Bulls win a championship. And I think that the Bulls have something going here with DeMar DeRozan. You paired both a Bruin and a Trojan back in Chicago. I could see that partnership still continuing. What about you, Isaiah? Where do you think Zach LaVine goes to? For me, I just think he stays with the Bulls just based on what I said here.
I think he goes to I think he stays with the Chicago Bulls, just like you, Loro. I think that there's been very little smoke around him, according to or about where he was gonna go, and it's just been so quiet. So I think that for Zach LaVine, I think he's going to stay with the Bulls. They're going to give him the most money. They're going to give him the most years. Plus, he's going to be able to play on a team that will be able to compete for the playoffs every single year. So it just makes too much sense for it not to happen.
What about you, Taylor? Where do you think Zach LaVine goes to?
I gotta agree with you and Isaiah. He's gonna stay with the Bulls because, like you mentioned, he's already got the chemistry with DeMar DeRozan and yeah, the Bulls have kind of been a perennial playoff contender. Like I could personally say he and DeRozan, I could say would be the new Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen because I believe LaVine and DeRozan, all the chemistry they've had, and I have a feeling it's going to continue. And I think the Bull and of course with the Bulls being a perennial playoff contender, just like it was when Jordan and Pippen were there. I think this is probably going to be the new dynasty, the beginning of a new dynasty era right here. And it all starts with LaVine and DeRozan. So I got to say LaVine is going to stay in the Windy City.
All right. What about you, Ben? Where do you think Zach LaVine ends up with?
I think he's going to stay in Chicago. I think that there hasn't been a lot of smoke out there, regardless of any other possible destinations. I think him just kind of staying there is a very good fit. There's still going to be in a lot of contention. I think really that if there's any potential outlier team, he's had brought interest about possibly being a Laker one day. And I know that for you and Laura and Isaiah, that would obviously be a dream for you guys to get a guy like a Zach LaVine. But I think if we're talking reality, I think that Zach LaVine staying in Chicago is very likely. And I think that he'll get probably like a 6-7 year extension. He's going to get whatever supermax that Chicago has, and him and DeRozan are going to be the backcourt of the future for that team.
I think so too. I think that might be. But anyways, next we talked about Jalen Brunson. We don't need to say this again. I mean, Isaiah, you could write down where Jalen Brunson goes to. Does everybody have him with the New York Knicks? I do.
Yep, Knicks.
I do too.
Taylor?
Not me.
Yeah.
I have him. Not me. I have him staying in Dallas.
Oh, okay.
Could happen.
Just wanted to go through that quickly because we kind of talked about it early. But anyways, let's move on to James Harden. Where I think James Harden is staying, this is an easy one. I think he's staying with the Philadelphia 76ers. I think it's going to work out for him there. and I'm confident that he's going to find a way to help bring home a championship to the city of Philadelphia if he can change his playoff demons, which I think that he's really had success in the regular season. I just think that James Harden has had bad luck in the playoffs and always chokes. I mean, Isaiah, do you think James Harden stays in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer because Daryl Morey got him from Houston. It's a reunion with him and Daryl Morey. It seems like he loves Philadelphia, and from what Woj and Shams is reporting, he's just opting out because he wants to take less money and re-sign with the Philadelphia 76ers. Plus, I believe the president of the Sixers was with James Harden and Daryl Morey in Philly. So it would be an absolute upset if James Harden were to depart and go somewhere else. He's going to be in Philly, and he's going to be in Philly probably for the remainder of his career.
Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. But anyways, what about you, Ben? Where does James Harden go with?
I think he's going to be in Philly. I think that this is obviously a no-brainer. Daryl Morey and him have a very strong connection. This is also going to be the full season for James Harden. Obviously, they got him at the trade deadline last year for Ben Simmons. So I think that with the new full year on his belt over there in Philly with Joel Embiid, I think that if Harden can get in more better shape in the offseason, kind of like the Kyle Lowry for Miami, it obviously still presents a very dangerous tandem. Obviously, the biggest situation with Harden is his playoffs, and obviously his career in the playoffs hasn't been very good in terms of getting to the next step. So I think that Philly kind of really has to see this as a situation for Harden and kind of prove himself. I still think there might be a possibility that he might look elsewhere possibly next year. But at least for this year, without a doubt, he'll stay in Philly. I think even the year after, he'll probably have an extension to get the Supermax and to remain a Sixer. But I would not surprise me if there might be some other suitors for next year to maybe gauge in some interest for James Harden.
And then as for me, I honestly think he's going to stay in Philly too. So, James Harden, of course, he got dealt for Ben Simmons, and I mean, as a lot of you mentioned, he has the potential to be the face of a franchise, just like he was with Houston for some time, and now he is in Philly. I think Harden, I think, is kind of like as I've been alluding to a lot of the legends in the past of players. Like we could say James Harden is kind of similar to Sixers legend Allen Iverson in some ways, because Iverson was he was well rounded, and except the only problem with AI3 is he came up short in the playoffs for a handful of years as well. And Harden is kind of the same way. This could probably finally be the year that he finally gets over the hump and finally wins a playoff series, maybe even an NBA championship. But I see him staying in Philly because he's kind of hopefully he doesn't have the same bad habits like Allen Iverson did, but I think he's going to stay in the city of brotherly love.
You're absolutely right. I think he will too. That's true. But anyways, now, folks, we will talk about Patty Mills. Where do I think he goes? Do I think the Lakers need a six-man? I'm going to say Patty Mills goes to the Lakers because I think the Lakers need a six-man, a guy that could score off the bench. I think they had that in Carmelo, but I want to go with Patty Mills, though. What about you, Isaiah? Where does Patty Mills go with?
Well, this is probably going to be like one of my takes that you're just like, wow, I can't believe he actually picked it because it's something that's about to come out of left field. And that is, I'm going to go with the Charlotte Hornets. I think he goes to Charlotte and gets his one of his final big paydays of his career and adds shooting alongside LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, or if he comes back, but adds shooting to that Charlotte Hornets team and gets another sharpshooter alongside LaMelo Ball. And I think it would be really fun to see LaMelo and Patty Mills, a guy that can stretch the floor with Grant or TJ Washington and all the young players that they have there in Charlotte. So for me, I'm going to go with Charlotte.
I could see that being a fate here, that's for sure. But anyways, folks, now we'll talk about DeAndre Ayton. I think
I think you skipped
Ayton
Ben and
stays in.
Taylor.
Well, I mean, we'll get to DeAndre in a minute. I'm going to ask Ben this. Oh, sorry. I said I'm staying with Patty Mills. Where do you think Patty Mills goes with?
I'm going to go with the Miami Heat. I think that Patty Mills with the Miami Heat just seems like a very good fit there. They love a lot of shooters there, and Patty Mills is just another shooter that they can get. He can be in the starting five for them. He can be off the bench. It also can create competition for a guy like a Tyler Hero or a Duncan Robinson. I just feel like
we're dealing with technical difficulties here, so sorry about that. But
so yeah, I'm gonna go with Patty Mills, Miami.
So we lost Ben for the moment here. I'm going to go to Taylor here. Where do you think Patty Mills goes with?
I say this could be a long shot, but personally, I would have to say, I mean, I don't know, but I'd say he goes to my Sacramento Kings. Why? Because they've already lost I say that they always need a good shooter, and ever since they got rid of Buddy Hield last year, and he's the franchise all-time three-point leader. Mills is a good shooter too, and honestly, the Kings, to fill the void left by someone like Buddy Hield, he could definitely fill that void, especially with when you also have someone like De'Aaron Fox who can run and gun. Mills can pretty much also stop and pop and hit. So I think he would definitely be a great fit in Sacramento with the Kings.
He could, but we'll see. But anyways, I'm going to talk about DeAndre Ayton. I think this is easy for me just because I think DeAndre Ayton is going to remain a Phoenix Sun, even though that there's trade rumors surrounding him. And I'm going to go to Ben on this one. Where do you think DeAndre Ayton goes with and why?
I think DeAndre Ayton is going to become a Detroit Piston. I think that they need some help at the big man position. And I think that you add a guy like a DeAndre Ayton at the front court, alongside him with a guy like Cade Cunningham. I just really like that duo. I think that DeAndre Ayton's still pretty young as an overall, and he's very solid, and he'll get paid from them. So I think DeAndre Ayton is going to become a Detroit Piston.
And what about you, Taylor? Where do you think DeAndre Ayton goes with?
I think he's going to stay in the Valley of the Sun because he played well there. The chemistry he had with Mikal Bridges and Chris Paul, and of course he's also got another big man compliment in Jay Crowder. So, and then of course the Suns. Ayton was one of the reasons why they went to the NBA Finals in 2021. But of course, obviously, Giannis, they were no match for Giannis and Bobby Portis, who I believe we're going to get to later. But Ayton, as a big man, and it's the fact that he's got a compliment, with him and Jay Crowder, and of course CP3 and Mikal Bridges. Definitely, I gotta say, he has found a home in Phoenix.
He definitely has found a home in Phoenix. You're absolutely right about that. But anyways, let's get to some of Isaiah's here. So he texted me this. He predicts that DeAndre time with the San Antonio Spurs for a max contract. He predicts Carmelo Anthony is going to be back for the Lakers for a veteran minimum. Colin Sexton is signed and traded to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook, Taylor Horton-Tucker, and Austin Reeves in a 3-team trade that includes the Cavs, Lakers, and Hornets. I also predict that Carmelo Anthony, like you, Isaiah, I think he is going to be back with the Lakers on a veteran minimum. I really enjoyed him with the Lakers last year. I really think that he definitely could bring some scoring off the bench that the Lakers definitely expect. And for Colin Sexton, I could see that, but I kind of think Colin Sexton probably will stay with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, anyways, we kind of got to that here. So let's go to Ben. Where do you think Carmelo Anthony goes with?
I think Melo could go to a couple places, but I'm going to throw a really crazy one out here. It might be one that a lot of people are going to be like, you're crazy for, but I'm going to go an Isaiah route and make it a little fun. I think Carmelo is pretty much done with his career, and I think that he'll take a vet minimum to go back to the New York Knicks and obviously kind of see if the fans and stuff like that can obviously kind of celebrate kind of maybe the end. I think personally that the Knicks kind of have a place for him on the bench too. He's not a starter material type player anymore. So, yeah, I would kind of like to see that, to see a Carmelo kind of back on the bench. He wouldn't cost you a whole lot. And I think that him and the Knicks would be a lot of fun.
Roto, we got you?
Yeah, it might be a lot of fun there. You're absolutely you're totally spot on right about that. But anyways, Isaiah, where do you think you already told me your pick, so I don't have to say that. We'll get to you in a little bit. What about you, Taylor? Where does Carmelo Anthony land?
Well, I personally see him, so one of two reasonable, for real life places. I would either see him staying with the Lakers or, like Ben said, going back to the Knicks. But a third one, I'd say this would probably be a long shot as well. I say he goes to the Charlotte Hornets because he I'm not sure why, but I think he could probably be a mentor to guys like LaMelo Ball and all those other players, Mellow and Mellow, so to speak. But but honestly, I think he's either going to stay with the Lakers or he's going to go back to the Knicks.
I could see that. That's totally a possibility there. So, anyways, with that being said here, Isaiah, do you have anything to add about like the Colin Sexton trade?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like that was probably my first like bombshell pick besides Patty Mills of the Hornets. And here's why I see it. It's because Colin Sexton is repped by Clutch. Cleveland has a boatload of guards, so they technically don't need him. Plus, like, he wants, I believe, 25 million. And Rob Pelinka has always loved Colin Sexton. LeBron has grown an affinity for him. So I just think it makes a lot of sense. Plus you replace Westbrook with a very young guard in Colin Sexton who's about to hit his prime. I think the Lakers and I think there were two other teams, the Cavs and the Hornets, will work out a 3-team trade, and Sexton would go to LA on a 4-year contract worth like 80 mil or 85 mil. And then I believe what I have is the Cavs would get back Gordon Hayward and some combination of THT and Austin Reeves, and the Hornets would get, salary cap flexibility. The Cavs would get some pieces to recuperate losing Colin Sexton, who they basically drafted his replacement last week in the draft. So I just think it's a win-win trade for all three teams, and the Lakers would basically sign Sexton and AD up for their future if LeBron James were to leave, and that would be their building blocks of the future, which I think it's a pretty good one because, you have AD, you have Sexton, who's a very, very underrated guard, and he can put up lots of numbers.
All right. Anyways, now that being said here, Ben, where do you think? So you already said something about Carmelo Anthony. I think everybody's good here. What they said about Carmelo Anthony. So, anyways, Ben and Taylor, where do you guys think Colin Sexton goes to? I'll start with Taylor on this one.
Personally, I see him. Yeah, one of two options. He either stays with Cleveland, or, but yeah, in real life, like either he stays with Cleveland or he goes to the Lakers. But maybe he could. But how about this for a long shot? I'll say I'll say he's another option for my Sacramento Kings, because he's a very versatile guard, and the Kings really need a backup to De'Aaron Fox, and so because Sexton, he's another. I think he's a point guard, but the Kings could really use someone like as a great compliment to De'Aaron Fox. But but that's just a bold prediction there. In real life, I see him either staying in Cleveland or going to the Lakers.
That's definitely a really good possibility there. You're absolutely right about that. But anyways, now that being said here, now let's talk about Ben. Let's go to Ben here. Where do you think Colin Sexton goes to, and why?
You guys haven't gotten to the one that I was going to get to, so I guess I'll save my best for last. I have two places. One is going to be the Indiana Pacers, because they're going to be able to need somebody to complement with Tyrese Halliburton. And I think that we'll talk about where I think Malcolm Brogdon will get shopped, and also Miles Turner, because I think both of them have a very realistic chance of getting moved. So I think that Pacers have a lot of assets that they can move with Cleveland, and I think that Sexton could be there. Also, the Charlotte Hornets. I think the Charlotte Hornets, with a guy with LaMelo Ball, I think Sex could be a decent asset there. They might move some assets around to clear up some salary, like Terry Rozier or Gordon Hayward or Bridges. So those two teams really, I think, would be very interesting options.
All right. Anyways, now let's go to TJ Warren. I mean, Taylor, did you talk about your pick for Colin Sexton?
Yes, I did. I said he's either going to stay with Cleveland or go to the Lakers. But I also made a bold prediction of him, of envisioning him with the Sacramento Kings.
That could definitely happen. Talk about him adding to that young core here. But anyways, let's go to TJ Warren. I predict Colin Sexton will stay in Cleveland. But anyways, I think TJ Warren should go to the I think now that this team might need bench depth, they're probably not going to keep Nick Batum. I think TJ Warren's a Clipper. What about you, Taylor? Where does TJ Warren go to?
Yeah, I could agree with you on that, going to the Clippers, because even if they do keep Nick Batum, Warren can definitely be a good fit, because I believe he actually played with there's I think is I don't know if PJ Tucker is still with the Clippers, but I think he and TJ Warren actually played together in Phoenix briefly. But yeah, I could definitely see him being a Clipper, because the depth players, other than say Kawhi and PG-13, Warren can definitely provide all that depth scoring that every team, especially the Clippers, needs.
Yeah, you might be right about that, because I really think that that's definitely a really good possibility that it does happen. But anyways, now let's talk about let's go to Ben here. Where do you think TJ Warren goes to?
Yeah, so I think it's actually a very viable option for my Boston Celtics, a guy that they wouldn't have to use too much to get asset wise. kind of a low risk, high reward. My other place for TJ Warren uh, could possibly be the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think that the Cavs might be able to pick him up and kind of use him on a bench or a starting type of role. Laura, two guys that I would like to kind of add to the list here, if that's okay, is PJ Tucker and Jay Crowder, because those are two names that have been kind of swirling around from different teams. So if we can get to those guys, maybe over like a guy like a Mike Muscala, because I'm not personally sure like where you would want to go, but PJ Tucker and uh, whoever I said before, maybe like Kyle Anderson or Jay Crowder. I wonder what you guys think about those guys.
That might be a real possibility there, but I think we'll have to wait and see here. But anyways, now let's talk about let's go to Isaiah here. So Isaiah, if you're back, tell us where TJ Warren's going to before we get to Dante DiVincenzo.
Yeah, so for TJ Warren, I think he's going to take a small contract just to rebuild his value because he was hurt all of this season, and teams want to see him healthy. So I think he's going to take a 1-year deal, and I think he's going to take a 1-year deal. And you know what? I actually have him going back to Phoenix because I think he's going to go there and provide some bench depth for the Phoenix Suns, and they're a team that's built right now ready to win. He's played there before. He knows Devin Booker, has a relationship with him. So I just think it makes a lot of sense for him to go back to Phoenix, go prove yourself, get a big contract, and also have a chance to win a championship. So I got the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I think that's a really good choice there that you got there. But anyways, now let's talk about here. We talked about TJ Warren here, but the next free agent that we're going to talk about here, sorry that my computer is slow here for the moment. We're going to talk about Dante DiVincenzo. And where I think he's going to stay, I think he's going to stay with the Sacramento Kings. I think you still pair him with De'Aaron Fox. I think that's definitely a move, and that's definitely a move there that I would go with if I were the Sacramento Kings here. So, anyways, I'll go to Isaiah. Where do you think he goes?
Yeah, so for me, I think he actually goes to the Lakers. I think he goes to the Lakers on the taxpayer mid-level exception, and reunites with Darvin Ham. You know, this guy played in Milwaukee. He was very instrumental in the Bucks winning a championship. He's a guy that can space the floor and play good defense. It's exactly what the Lakers need. Two-way guards. And he knows Darvin Ham from their days in Milwaukee. He said in the past that Darvin Ham was very crucial in his development. It just makes too much sense for it not to happen. So I'm going to go with Dante DiVincenzo putting on the purple and gold and joining the Los Angeles Lakers on the taxpayer mid-level exception.
That's probably a good call right there. But anyways, Ben and Taylor, where do you think Dante DiVincenzo goes?
I think that DiVincenzo is going to go back to the Milwaukee Bucks. I think that he's been there before, and I think that the Bucks like to bring guys back possibly that have been there, done that. He brings a little bit of championship pedigree. Would not be surprised if he went back there.
What about you, Taylor? Where does Dante DiVincenzo go to, and why?
Yeah, like Ben said, he knows the Bucks because he used to play for them, and they like to bring him back. Except for him, I think he would definitely find instant chemistry with, say, Giannis, and then of course another free agent that I would probably like to throw into the mix, but I think is going to stay with the Bucks also. Bobby Portis. I think if Bobby Portis stays with the Bucks, then I say DiVincenzo, Portis, and Giannis. I say that's definitely the Bucks' new big three right there. Because DiVincenzo, I say, could definitely improve under Giannis and Bobby Portis, and that would definitely make them a deadly trio.
You're right. I mean, they definitely could make a deadly trio there. That's for sure. But anyways, Now, folks, let's talk about Victor Oladipo. Where do I think he goes? Sacramento Kings. I think that, like I said, I think if he can build his value up to be a starter again, I could see that being a fit here. What about you, Isaiah? Where do you think? Victor Oladipo goes to?
I think he's going to have to take another veteran minimum contract because he was good in Miami in the bench role, but he really he played a lot of minutes for them off the bench, but I just don't get that teams really saw much from him to give him more than a veteran minimum contract. So I'm actually going to go with veteran minimum, but to the Denver Nuggets. I think that's a team that needs shooting off the bench, needs a quick lightning score that Oladipo would bring. And I just think it makes a lot of sense for him to go to Denver, especially after they made the moves today for KCP and they traded away Monty Morris. He could go in and fill that role that Monty Morris had for the Denver Nuggets.
That's definitely a really good possibility there. But anyways, now that being said here, let's talk about where Ben and Taylor, where do you think Victor Oladipo goes to?
I got 3 places for him. I have the Wizards, the Nuggets, and this is going to be a crazy one, but the Orlando Magic. I think that Oladipo needs to kind of prove himself again. He's been a very good player over the course of his career, but we'll see in terms of where he can go next.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to wait and see where that goes here. But anyways, now that being said here, Taylor, where do you think Victor Oladipo goes to?
So 3 options. Yeah, obviously I gotta agree with you saying he's probably gonna go to the Kings because the Kings need a big man starter, or I don't know, but the Kings definitely need someone like him to reinvent himself. And then also I could probably say the Denver Nuggets because with the recent trading away of Monty, forgot his last name, but to acquire and then to acquire Contavious Caldwell Pope, gotta say the Nuggets are a viable option for him. And then of course also I would probably say the Orlando Magic could be another viable option because there's a chance that they might be losing I forgot his name already, but those are my 3 options though: the Sacramento, Orlando, or Denver.
That's definitely really good calls there. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they went in that route here. But anyways, now we'll talk about Mike Muscala. I think he should go back to the Lakers here because if you talk about the Lakers need shooting help, I think that's the destination I think where Mike Muscala needs to go to. Back to the Lakers, and that he provides the shooting depth that I think the Lakers need. What about you, Isaiah? Where do you think Mike Muscala goes to?
I'm going to agree with you, Loro. I think he goes back to the Lakers. They need a big that can stretch the floor. They need shooting. It just makes a lot of sense. He's going to get a lot of open looks there and be able to put up numbers. He was a 41% three-point shooter, which was a career high. So I got him going back to the Lakers. I think he goes back to the Lakers on a veteran minimum contract.
That's definitely a good call there. That's for sure. But anyways, Taylor, where do you think personally Mike Muscala goes to?
Well, if he needs to reinvent himself, if he began his career with the Lakers, I say you definitely got to go back to where you started. So, the Lakers, of course, would be a good fit for him because, like I said, if you want to reinvent yourself, then you may as well go back where you started. So, definitely the Lakers.
Definitely, that's a good call right there. But anyways, now we'll talk about the next topic of discussion that we'll talk about is trade candidates. So Russell Westbrook, does he stay? Does he go? I think he stays with the Lakers. Isaiah, Taylor, do you have Russell Westbrook staying with the Lakers?
Taylor, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I was about to say my phone's about to die, but anyways, I think Westbrook, yeah, I think he might stay with the Lakers, but at the same time, I probably think he's gonna get moved about like around the trade deadline because, you know, I mean, he didn't really get along well with LeBron, and I think the tension's kind of gonna, it's only gonna get it's only going to get worse. So he would. I'd probably say he stays with the Lakers for now, but eventually he's going to move on.
And Loro, I got him going to Charlotte actually in the Colin Sexton sign and trade that sends Sexton back to Sexton to LA, Westbrook to Charlotte. Cavs get Hayward and a whole other haul that includes Austin Reeves and Taylor Horton Tucker as well. So I got him going to Charlotte.
That's a good call right there. But anyways, I'll go to Taylor next year. So anyways, Taylor, you said Russell Westbrook staying with the LA Lakers?
Yeah, until about the trade deadline.
All right. So Taylor. So anyways, it's gonna just be me and Isaiah for the remainder of the night here. So talk about Malcolm Brogdon, Gordon Hayward, and Miles Turner. I'm going to say Malcolm Brogdon, Isaiah. I think he should stay with the Pacers so that he could, he could build up his trade value at the trade deadline. To me, I think that Malcolm Brogdon is a piece for me that could get traded at the deadline.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that because a lot of the suitors that could be in line for him, they're just going out left and right. I got Sexton to the Lakers. That takes the Lakers out. A whole other places have been gone. Miami. If I have to make a pick, Loro, you said that he's going to stay in Indiana and wait to the trade deadline. I got to go with Boston, actually. I think that Boston – no, actually, let me take that back. I agree with you. I think he stays with the Pacers, rebuilds his value, gets to be the guy in Indiana until the trade deadline, and then he gets traded at the trading deadline.
Yeah, that definitely could be the case here. But anyways, now talk about Malcolm. Talk about Gordon Hayward. So I think Gordon Hayward, to me, I don't think anybody's going to want to take that contract. I think that Gordon Hayward will remain I think he's going to remain a Charlotte Hornet for now.
I actually got to disagree with you, Loro. I actually have him going to Cleveland in the Colin Sexton 3-team sign and trade that involves the Lakers, the Cavaliers, and the Charlotte Hornets. It will be Hayward goes to Cleveland. Taylor Horton Tucker, Austin Reeves goes to Cleveland as well, and Sexton goes to LA. Hornets get their salary cap flexibility that they can now use and sign Miles Bridges to a max contract.
I could see. I really could see that. I could see where you're going with this. So, anyways, now with that being said, talk about Miles Turner. I think Miles Turner is going to stay with the Pacers. I think that the Pacers want to build around him, rebuild the team around him. But Isaiah, you might agree or disagree with me on it. Where do you think Miles Turner goes to?
I got a bomb for you, Laurel. I got an absolute shock for you. Get ready for this. Miles Turner will be traded to the Golden State Warriors for James Wiseman. He's going to go there. Both guys seemingly need change of sceneries. I feel like Wiseman, he's too young. He's going down his up and downs. Golden State doesn't have time for him to develop because they are a win now team. I think a package of Wiseman plus maybe a Kuminga or someone like that gets the job done. Plus, Golden State gets that center that they've been wanting for a long time. A guy that can come in, dominate in the paint, a guy that is mobile, can shoot the three, block shots, all that stuff, and pair next to Draymond Green. I think it's an amazing pairing with Draymond Green. So I got him going to the Warriors.
I could see that happening too. But anyways, the Utah Jazz have found their next head coach as they named 34-year-old Boston Celtics assistant coach Will Hardy to become their new head coach. Isaiah, I was wanting the Jazz to go with Frank Vogel. That would have made Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert happy. Why did they have to go? Why did they change directions and want to go with a young head coach?
I am really confused by this hire because I thought they were going to go with a veteran, a guy that's proven, a guy that can show Donovan Mitchell, hey, you need to listen to me because I got all these championship rings on my finger. And they go with a 34-year-old, a guy that's so young, never been a head coach before. Yes, he's worked under Greg Popovich. He worked under Ime Udoka. But I think that this is going to backfire. You know, I'm rooting for Will Hardy because he seems like a guy that, you know, deserves a shot. But I am confused by this. I think he's walking into a very, very tenuous situation. And Loro, I don't know if he's going to be able to make it out in the next couple of years. I think that this is just not a good situation for him to start his head coaching career. And I think the Jazz made a big mistake. I agree with you. I think they should have gone with Fizdale. I think they should have gone with Frank Vogel. I think they should have gone with a guy that's proven and a guy that can come in and take them to the next step. I just don't think Will Hardy's the guy that can cut it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that he definitely needed to get to that next level here. But anyways, folks, let's for our final subject of the night is talk about MLB. The Yankees slugger Joey Gallo is expected to see less playing time leading up to the trade deadline, where he's expected to be moved. It appears that he's going to be taking a bench role at the New York Yankees until a resolution. Who I do think should grab Joey Gallo? Who I think needs a left-handed bat is the Padres. I think that the San Diego Padres definitely need to put him on the list because A.J. Preller knew Joey Gallo at the Texas Rangers. Or I could see Joey Gallo going to not the Rockies. I mean, he's a free agent. I could see him signing a free agent contract with Colorado next offseason because I think that his bat would fit in Coors Field. That's where I have Joey Gallo signing next offseason is with the Colorado Rockies, is to complement Chris Bryant, right? You know that Charlie Blackmon is not going to be playing every day. You're going to move him to a DH role. So Joey Gallo right now needs to go on a playoff team. And I think it's the Padres or the Giants. I prefer the Padres just because I think I think that San Diego, I think that now that the Yankees traded Luke Voit there, I think Joey Gallo joins Luke Voit in San Diego.
I like what you mentioned, Loro, about San Diego. I think that could be a good fit. But for me, I think it's easy. Philadelphia. You just lost Bryce Harper, a left-handed slugger, for the next month or 2 months. Who knows? You need a guy to come in and help you stabilize the offense because the offense, let's face it, has been downright garbage without Bryce Harper. Like, I don't understand how Real Muto and Castellanos, who make a lot of money, are just swinging at every pitch, whether it's left, right, whether it's inside, out, high, low, doesn't matter. They just swing at everything, and they're not producing, so you need another bat to help stabilize it, and a power left-handed bat is what you need. And I think that if you can add Gallo, I don't care that he strikes out a whole bunch. He plays great defense in the outfield. He's a guy that runs well. He's a guy that I think his bat would play extraordinarily well at Citizens Bank Park, and he will be able to provide you with the production that Harper provided you with. And after that, you can move him to center field because, let's face it, you haven't gotten any production out of center field because Moniak has been very disappointing so far. Odubel Herrera swings at pitches at his legs. Matt Vierling has been very up and down. You could place him in center and imagine Loro an outfield of Schwarber, Gallo, and Castellanos with Harper as the DH. That would be a very, very powerful outfield and a very powerful addition to the Philadelphia Phillies if they were to make that addition. And you have to make a move now because if you want to get back into this playoff race, you're not going to win the division. But if you want to get back into this playoff race, you have to make a move now to stabilize the offense. And Joey Gallo, he will be a great fit for the Philadelphia Phillies.
He definitely would be, but I think that when it comes to my offseason predictions for baseball, I told you my early prediction for Joey Gallo come this offseason. I think that I would want him to sign with Colorado.
I could see Colorado, but also keep in mind the Arizona Diamondbacks. And here's why. Because if Torey Lovullo gets let go, right, and Jeff Bannister, their bench coach, gets moved up to manager to replace him, there's a connection there. Gallo played several years for Texas with Jeff Bannister, and he loves Jeff Bannister. He loves his intensity. He loves his fire. And if Bannister becomes the manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, I could see Arizona giving him that contract, Gallo going to Arizona to play for Jeff Bannister.
Oh, I think that might be a really, talk about a good fit there if Joey Gallo goes to the Diamondbacks. I think David Peralta stays. I think that they should keep David Peralta, but if Pavin Smith's not the guy in right field, then you get Joey Gallo in right field. I could see two potential fits there. I see him in my division regardless next year, but I kind of think it's going to be either those two. But anyways, we have an announcement to make. We have some final thoughts. It's been a great show. Thank you for tuning in, and we have one tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time as myself and the IM6 crew will go live and react to some bombshell signings and trades as we go through the night of free agency, which is going to be beginning tomorrow. I'm excited to see what's going to happen tomorrow for NBA free agency. And my final thoughts is I want to thank Ishmael and also thank all the viewers that have tuned in and taking time out of the day. Justin, you're the MVP. Thanks for making all these comments because you're the MVP of the show. What about you, Isaiah? What are your final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts is I want to echo your sentiments and thank, Justin Bossman. I want to thank Richard Daniels for tuning in tonight. I want to thank Christy Wilson for tuning in. I want to thank I believe we had a few more, Ishmael Lancaster as well. Thank you guys so much for flooding our comments with amazing comments and predictions that you guys have for free agency. Buckle up, Loro. It's one of the most exciting times of the year. NBA free agency is like NFL free agency where you have the flurry that just comes right when the bell rings, which tomorrow would be at around 6 p.m. Pacific time. But yeah, join me and Loro and the rest of our IM6 crew. We have a jam-packed show tomorrow for you. We're going to come live about an hour and a half after free agency opens to react to all the breaking news, all the bombshell signings, all the bombshell trades that's going to happen. And we're going to be like Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania and also break news for you as they come in. So great show tonight, but tune in tomorrow, a jam-packed show on the first day of Basketball Christmas is coming your way tomorrow, folks.
All right. You have a great night, everyone.